Hey traders, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be talking all about the 20 period simple moving average, why I really like this indicator. It's one of my favorite indicators in terms of kind of just the basics. Usually I don't get too complicated using a bunch of fancy indicators, but the 20 period is a very simple way to spot a couple cool things. So in this video, I'm going to talk about some basic trading approaches or strategy concepts that you could potentially employ in your own trading. As always, I recommend that you do your own due diligence, go test these things for yourself, put the time into back test, do all the hard work that nobody wants to do, all of that good stuff. So let's go ahead and get into the video right now. What's good, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Nick. I talk all about trading and markets. It is something I'm super interested in. And today we are talking about the 20 period moving average, this very basic, very simple tool that I really like to use in my own trading. It's basically just this little red bar here. I usually like to make it red or blue or something, doesn't really matter, but almost all charting platforms have the 20 period moving average, and it is a super basic tool that actually can give you some really interesting insight or signals in the market. Now there's a couple different ways that I think that you can use the 20 period moving average, and I'm going to go through them with you guys here. So of course, first thing I want to say is that no matter what indicator, what entry, what pattern that you look for, it is never going to be perfect. There's never going to be something that gives you a 100% entry accuracy. That's just not how markets work. But we can use the 20 period as a basic indicator of trend, or in some cases also reversals. So when I'm looking at the 20 period moving average, one thing that I'd like to say is the first way that I like to, the first thing that I want to talk about is trading it with the trend. So if we're looking at trends, what is a moving average? Well, all it is just looking back 20 bars in this case, right? Looking for the average price of that range. So as this thing is increasing, what is that telling us? Well, it's telling us that the trend historically is going up. And a lot of times when we see that, that can actually mean that the trend will continue in the direction that it's going. Not always. And of course, if you see something like this, if you see a moving average that is basically just sideways, that means the market is, well, sideways. So that's something to think about as well. But if we're using it in the context of a trend and we see the market start to trade in one direction, we can actually use a trend as a filter or a moving average as a trend filter. So if price is moving steadily above, maybe we're looking for longs. And if price is moving steadily below, maybe we're looking for shorts. That's the first way. I know it's very simple, but as a simple filter, I like using the 20 period as a short-term indication of the short-term trend direction. So in this case, you can see that, okay, well, price is actually moving very nicely above, trending nicely to the upside and holding that 20 period moving average. In fact, that brings me to the next kind of level that I really like the 20 period moving average as, which is using it in favor of the trend and using it as a kind of pullback tool. Now, of course, as I mentioned, nothing is going to be perfect, but here's an example. So now we're printing underneath. So we are trading underneath the 20 period moving average. And then all of a sudden price comes back to test it. Now, stay tuned on that whole retesting concept because we will be coming back to that a little bit further on in the video. But when we're talking about retesting, if we're in the direction of a trend, a lot of times price will come back to that 20 period moving average and actually hold it as a support or resistive level depending on the direction. So in this case, when we're moving down, right, we're showing signs of a reversal here. We've started to move downwards. On the retest of that 20 period moving average, this could be a pretty good signal. And what I really like about this is it actually goes nicely with another level of confluence, which is this area here. So price is printed support here, and now is retesting. And look how it perfectly, right at that 20 period resistance level and the resistive, the resistance point here from the horizontal level, right? Previous support now becoming resistance, and we've got what? We've got that 20 period moving average also telling us that we're moving short, we're moving to the downside, and now price is retesting. I like to call this our area of value, AOV for area of value. And what that basically tells me is that this generally means that this is where the true pricement has been moving, because in the price, in the actual candlestick, sometimes you get little spikes, you get little over extensions, right? And so the moving average can help to filter trades, right? or filter moves is what I meant to say. So as we're moving, right, this is telling us the general move rather than just kind of the spikes and all directional moves, right? So the moving average can help to smooth the moves. Again, so the other way of using it with the trend is pullbacks, looking for scenarios. Now, of course, again, it's not going to work all the time perfectly. You can see in this case, it kept going a little bit further, but a lot of times you'll be surprised. It actually does a pretty good job. Like here, where price was holding that 20 period moving average, we broke out, we held it, and then we shot to the upside and continued in the upward trend direction that it was showing us. So there's a whole long list really of ways to use this indicator. It is so simple, yet it has so many applications. So again, let's recap on what we've got so far. It can be used to trade with the trend, showing basically as a filter, right? It can show us the overall direction of the market by smoothing the price. And it can show us potential pullback areas that can be potentially good entry points. So that is kind of some ways to trade it with the trend. Now let's talk about some potential reversals. Now what you'll notice here, I want to point out basically when we get very, very stretched from a moving average, sometimes that can actually be an indication that it may be time for the market to give back some of its move. And so what we can look at is, let's take a look here. I know this is just, a cookie cutter example. We're showing the extremes, of course, and I have hindsight on my side. I can show you any examples I want. And I'm telling you that on purpose. I want you to, whoever you listen to on the internet, take it with a grain of salt. Go test it for yourself. Please don't just listen to everything that I say as fact. Go test it. Everything you hear on the internet, you should be doing that. I love to rant on that, so I'm sorry. But when we're back to this concept here of extreme moves, sometimes the moving average gets, price gets very far from the moving average. In fact, at this point, we can see that the moving average is all the way up here and the price is all the way down here. So sometimes we can actually see some pretty good reversal setups from a move that seems extreme one way or the other. So if markets have moved incredibly far to the downside and we see a distance from that moving average as being pretty significant, a lot of times it can predict that there might be a pullback coming or a reversal coming. Because what ends up happening a lot of times is when we get very, very stretched, the market basically is becoming euphoric one way or the other. Shorts are getting way too excited or buyers are getting way too excited if we're going up. And a lot of times the market wants to, coming back to our concept from earlier, retest significant levels of support or resistance as we see here. Notice what price does immediately when it starts to reverse. It jumps all the way back to that 20 period moving average to retest it. Now, I do want to add, this concept is applicable to pretty much most moving averages, right? Here's a long version of this. Look at this. Price gets incredibly sold off on this GBP JPY 4-hour chart, very far from the 200 period moving average, which is another one that I personally really like to look at. And then we have the 20 period, which closely follows the price as it's going along. So when we get very, very stretched, now you can see price not only starts to reverse, but we actually come all the way back up to retest that significant 200-day moving average as well, or sorry, 200 period moving average. So it's all just a matter of using moving averages in these two main ways, trading it with the direction of the trend and also looking for when price gets too far from that moving average, it may be time to look for, either taking profits yourself or potentially, if you're interested in counter trend trading, looking for signs of a reversal to add on to that. As always with any indicator, I definitely encourage you to stack it on, on top of other things. Don't use it by itself because in general, markets are very dynamic places. They don't look at just one thing. And us as traders, we want to stack as many things as we can in our favor to place more effective trades. Here's another example really quick of a time where price gets very, very stretched from our 20 period and our 200 period. And you can actually see that price comes back. It retests this briefly, keeps going all the way down to that 200 period before finding support. So it's very interesting how these things play out. A lot of times they are pretty interesting in terms of, retest levels. And so that is something to to think about and maybe apply to your charts if you're interested in using moving averages to help filter and look for potential ideas or setups in the market. Guys, let me know what you think down below. Comment what your thoughts are with moving averages. What are your favorite moving averages? Those sort of things. And do me a favor, if you like the video, please give it a thumbs up. It goes a long way to show that you're supporting and want to see more of this sort of content. And it actually will help you out by encouraging YouTube to show you more content that is helpful in your trading journey. So with that said, guys, thanks so much for watching. I hope that you have a fantastic rest of your day, and we'll see you back in the next one.